This is Good Morning San Diego.
Home ownership has become almost unattainable in San Diego for many families. And here to tell us how you can overcome the barriers to home ownership, California real estate broker Mark Powell. Good morning, Mark. Good to see you.
Good morning, Lauren. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. All right, so we are talking about just, high interest rates, low inventory. This is a recipe for really high housing prices, and families are just struggling to get in and make that leap into home ownership.
That's correct. If you wanted to buy a house today, the median price home is $875,000. Look, it dropped $20,000, but that's really just not enough for most families to afford a house, or any individual. So what people can do, buyers, is they can pool their resources together. I'll give you an example. 4 people were renting a house close to my house. If they were to pool their resources together, each one of them alone cannot qualify. But by pooling their resources together and forming something called an LLC, or a limited liability corporation, they could actually purchase a house as tenants in common, where each of them own a separate interest in the house. So now they're not paying rent, they're paying a mortgage payment. They're building equity, maybe 4, 5, 6 years. They could sell, and then they would have the down payment. And also family members, 2 brothers, 2 sisters, 2 separate families, they could pull their resources together, because individually it's too tough for them to buy a house by themselves. They would have to make approximately between $220,000 and $240,000 a year, and wages have just not kept up with home price increases.
Yeah, and that's one of the issues. We talk about low inventory driving up the prices of homes, but some are arguing, well, the wages just haven't kept up with the housing increases. Do you think it's more of a wage problem, or do you think it's more of a housing pricing problem and inventory problem?
Actually, I think it's a government problem. Government is really causing a lot of these home prices to increase, because permit fees eat up about 35 to 50% of the cost to build. So they can't build homes at a price where people can afford. And I'll give you a personal example. When I bought my first house, I was a school teacher. I was able to afford the house. I got a roommate to help me out. If I were to buy that same house, because I looked it up just before I came here, I would have to make $220,000 a year. And what school teacher or police officer or nurse are going to make $220,000 a year? No one's making $13,000 to $15,000 a month, $20,000 a month. It's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about permitting, and that could be a way around what we've seen with housing costs, because, post-World War II, you had let's build like crazy. Everybody's
yes,
coming back, having kids, families, and then you saw just local markets putting regulation after regulation in, and now we are stuck with what we are seeing with permitting fees, which are really helping to drive up those costs. Would that be a suggestion of local governments, how they could work around some of these pricing?
Absolutely. You got to lower the permit fees, and streamlining the permitting process. In Arizona, what they do is they self-certify contractors and architects, so they can certify their own permits, go in, 24-hour turnaround, they get their permits. Here, going into our city, yes, they've streamlined it a little bit, but it could take years to get a development going. So they have to streamline the permitting fee. They have to reduce their permitting fee, because when it's 50% of the cost to build, what builder is going to be able to build a home at, between $500,000 and $700,000? That's kind of the sweet spot. But when was the last time you saw a house for $500,000 or $700,000 here? The median is $875,000. Just too expensive.
Really quickly before we go, I want to get your thoughts on Prop 33. That is a California ballot measure we're all going to have to decide on, which expands rent control in the state. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are vote no on Prop 33, because what it does is it allows cities, jurisdictions, to implement their own rent control measures. An example would be, let's say you had a house and you're renting it to somebody for $1,500 a month, but the actual market rate is $3,000 a month. When they move out, you would no longer be allowed to raise it to the market rate. You would have to keep it at $1,500 a month, and they could even say you can only increase it 2 or 3% a year. So it's a stripping of private property rights, and what a lot of the property owners might do is say, well, you know what, I can't make a profit, I'm just going to sell it. Takes another rental market off the property. Now you have a smaller supply of rental properties, and the price goes up again.
All right. Mark Powell, thanks so much for the visit this morning, for the donuts as well.
Oh, you're welcome. Of course.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right.